Hey friends, now that you've watched the video about photosynthesis on Flocabulary, I want to talk to you a little bit about some of the concepts that the video talked about. One really important idea that the video on Flocabulary talks about is the carbon cycle. Now, the carbon cycle is something that you're going to learn more about as you get older, and I'm not going to go into a whole lot of detail about it. However, you do actually know a little bit about the carbon cycle already. Remember at the beginning of the year when we learned about elements? We learned about elements like oxygen, nitrogen, helium, and carbon is an element. You can find it on the periodic table of elements. Carbon is one of the most critical elements that helps life on Earth function the way we are used to it. Carbon is stored in all different kinds of places on Earth, including in rocks and sediments. It's also stored in the atmosphere in the form of gases like carbon dioxide. And carbon is stored in the living tissues of our bodies and in the form of glucose, which is sugar. And carbon is also stored in plants because plants make a form of glucose as well. The carbon cycle refers to carbon molecules being combined with other kinds of elements and moving throughout the atmosphere in an endless cycle of life. And you're going to learn a lot about that as you get older. For now, all you need to know is that carbon is critically important to life on Earth. We couldn't survive without carbon. You should also know that carbon is found in a lot of different places, including in the atmosphere in carbon dioxide. And you should also know that carbon dioxide is used to form the glucose in plants. And that's just part of the carbon cycle. Okay, that's all you need to know. Carbon is important. It's lots of places. And you can find carbon in carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. And you can also find carbon in plants in the glucose that plants make using photosynthesis. Okay, I think I boiled it down in as simple a way as I can. When you're on Flocabulary, you're going to learn these different vocabulary words, and I just wanted to talk to you about each one. First, we have autotroph. Now, we've talked about autotrophs, and we have called them producers. Producers are living organisms that make their own food using photosynthesis. An autotroph is another word for a producer. It's an organism that uses photosynthesis or some other biological process to create its own food. Now, there's an activity here where you can write with the word. So write a sentence using the word or draw a picture to represent what the word means to you. But for right now, I'm just going to review the meaning of each word. Okay, carbon dioxide. Is it going to let me go to carbon dioxide? Oh, I think it won't let me move on to the next one until I do the activity. Don't really want to do this fully because I don't want you guys to just copy my sentences. Okay. Carbon dioxide is a colorless and odorless gas that is composed of carbon and oxygen. It is absorbed from the air by plants and produced when people and animals breathe out. The gas carbon dioxide is what makes soda and other soft drinks bubbly. So carbon dioxide is critical for plants. They absorb it from the air. And then remember that when plants are going through photosynthesis, they are producing oxygen as a byproduct or waste, meaning they don't need it to function or to reproduce or to repair their damage that happens to them. They don't need the oxygen. They produce it as a waste, and then we, of course, need oxygen to live. Okay, so I'm just going to do this so that you guys don't copy me. I do not want you to write blah for your sentence. I want you to actually write a sentence. Chlorophyll is the green substance in plants that is essential to photosynthesis. Leaves and plants are green because they contain chlorophyll, which is a green pigment. Now, the word pigment is just a big fancy word for saying what gives something its color. Okay. And in some of the other books that you've read, the book will refer to chlorophyll as like little packets of color in the leaves. On Friday, we're going to do an experiment where we're actually going to extract chlorophyll from leaves to see how it can move from the leaves into another substance. Okay, so these are going to be flashcards, and when you do them properly and correctly, not like how I'm doing them quickly, when you flip them over, you'll see the definition on one side, and then you'll see your sentence that you wrote and your picture representing the meaning of the word on the other side. A chloroplast is the part of the plant cell or the structure that contains chlorophyll and in which photosynthesis occurs. So this is actually that packet part that I was talking about. Sorry, I misspoke before. The chloroplast is a little packet inside the leaf that holds the chlorophyll. Now, some people, I don't know if I've told you this before, but chloro, I think that's a root word that means color. Let me just confirm before I say it for sure. Does it mean color? It's a combining form that can mean green. So chloro, sometimes when you see that word, I guess it refers to green. I always thought it meant color, and that's how I remember. Chlorophyll refers to color. How come it won't let me? Okay, moving right along. Convert means to change from one form to another. Now, we've seen the word convert in math before, when we convert a fraction to a decimal, or when we convert a mixed number to an improper fraction. We're changing it from one thing to another. In science, we can talk about converting molecules from one form to another. When we break apart atoms, like carbon atoms and oxygen atoms, and then we combine them in a different way, we end up with a different substance. And that is what is happening during the process of photosynthesis. More on that later. Glucose is a simple sugar that is found widely in nature, and it's an important energy source for plants and animals. An example of a natural sugar is glucose. So when you think of glucose, just think of table sugar that you use to make cookies or brownies or cakes or whatever. It's sugar that your body needs to fuel its functions. And just like we need energy to grow and reproduce and breathe and do all the things that our body does, plants also need energy in the form of glucose to grow, make seeds, make flowers, and do all the things that their little plant lives require of them. So glucose is the energy that the plant uses. An organelle, this is something you're going to learn more about. I remember learning about this in high school. So this is just a word for funsies. It's not going to be on a test or anything like that. An organelle is a part of a cell that has a special function or a job, much like an organ. So if you think of the word organelle, it's like a little teeny tiny organ inside of a cell, and it has a job. So the organelle that we learned about in this lesson are the chloroplasts. And remember, the chloroplasts are the part of the cell that holds the chlorophyll. Okay, a chloroplast is an organelle. period. When you're writing your sentences, don't forget we need to have a capital letter at the beginning and a period at the end. Okay, oxygen is a colorless, odorless, gaseous, meaning in the form of gas, element that is found in air and water. It's necessary for humans, animals, and plants to live. And here's an example sentence for you. Patients in the hospital often receive oxygen to help them breathe more easily. Now, when we are learning about oxygen in this unit, we're talking about how the plant produces oxygen as waste because plants don't need the oxygen. So we're going to write and draw. Photosynthesis is, now hopefully you know a lot about photosynthesis now that we've been studying it for a couple weeks, the process green plants use to turn water and carbon dioxide into food, which is the glucose, using energy from sunlight. Green plants create food for themselves through the process of photosynthesis. So write a sentence, draw a picture that represents the meaning of the word. Don't copy mine, please. Come up with your own picture. Mine's a diagram. Carbon dioxide in, oxygen out, and glucose stays behind. All right. Wow. I am an amazing artist. I hope that helped you guys. So the purpose of the Flocabulary is just to give you an opportunity to practice some vocabulary words. And I always think learning scientific information through song is helpful. If this video is confusing to you, try listening to it in little pieces, like watch the video and then pause it. Think about what you just learned from the video or write down a question that shows what you didn't understand. Because actually, when I watch this video, it is pretty long and some of it might be confusing for you if you don't take time as you watch it to think about what you're learning. All right, guys.